Young B on the beat, bitch.
Alright, what's cracking, everybody? Today I'm going to do my third video in the collection of the Akai Mpc tutorials. So today we're going to be going over a lot of sample editing stuff and kind of the basics of that and getting you guys to just get into that. I know a lot of that is really like a creative process, and once you know those basics you can really dive into it, get creative, get hands-on. So I want to make sure you guys all understand that kind of stuff, so let's get into it. Alright, what's happening, everybody? You know how it is, we got B.Smith in the back on his camera shake. Come on, you know, repping. Alright guys, so today we're going to be going through, this is part 3 of the MPC tutorial collection. We're going to be going into sample editing today, so make sure you got MPC open, and yeah, let's just dive into it. So as far as sample editing goes, this is stuff that you're going to want to do when you get into like chopping up, you want to alter a sample, or you want to just sample something from like any sort of like old record, movie, anything like that. So you're going to drag your sample in. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up like a little loop or something. Alright, so once you got your loop in, obviously, you know, you're always going to want to go in and make sure your tempo and your BPM are correct and move it out to 8 bars, so you got to understand that. But as far as sample editing, we're just going to, that's not really necessary until you start really building your beat. So make sure you're on sample edit, which is up here in the top, 4 away from the left, and you're going to see this window. So it depends if you have a beat pad or not, but if you have a beat pad, you're going to have your knobs, and that's going to be able to control your beginning of your sample and the end of your sample as well. So depending on what you have clicked. So right now my cue links are set up to where my top one is more of a, I can move quicker through it. My bottom one I can move a little bit less, and my other one is like real fine tuning. So as you start going through your cue links, you know, you can go towards the end and the start and stuff like that. So that's really dope. Your pads are going to be set up to where you have play from start, play to start, play to end. So I can literally just play the end real quick, or I can play, you know what I mean? So it's kind of nice how your pads get set up to where it's automatically easy for you to just cycle through, you know, and pinpoint what part of the sample you want to mess with first. So let's say I wanted to chop this sample in half. What I'm going to do, and it's really easy. First off, what you can do is you can always, sometimes what I did is what I would do is I would take this number and I would just kind of cut that in half. And I would put that as my start, and yeah, that's a good way to do it too. There's a couple different things that you could do with that, and like, you know, just to cut it in half immediately. But also what I'm going to do is I could just come over here, drag this over. I'm going to find my sample start. So I'm going to keep tapping that. And then I'm going to start fine-tuning it. So I found that beginning. Right? So that's easy with your cue link knobs there. You can also just do it by clicking and dragging this, which can be really helpful, and you can come down here and zoom in, and you can really find exactly where that starts. It's really helpful. As far as like the functions goes, they have a lot of little functions, kind of like you would notice in other DAWs and stuff like that. So like normalize, if you want to really, if your sample is quiet or whatever, you can boost it. Reverse is something that I always like to go into, just to kind of mess around. It's going to take whatever you have selected and reverse it. It's not, so if I have the last half of my sample selected, it's not going to reverse the beginning half. It's going to reverse the second half. So now let's play it. So that's dope. All this is kind of really straightforward and simple. If you want to reverse it back, Command Z or Control Z on PC, or just reverse it. Fade in and fade out. That's not something I don't think a lot of you are gonna use. It's kind of nice, but it really fades your whole sample. Not a huge like thing that I use all the time. You can do it in a few different ways, like exponential. It's gonna fade most of the sample. Linear is like your best bet for fading the sample if you want just kind of a quick fade. Pitch shift is cool. You can you go by semitones, and you can pitch shift up an octave or down an octave. So let's say we want to go down an octave on this. Boom, we just pitch shifted that. I'm gonna go take it back, but yeah, you guys can go through and by semitones pitch shift that however you feel is necessary, which is really dope effect that you can do. And yeah, this is all under this process sample, so there's a little drop down menu, make it easy for you guys to switch between functions and stuff like that. The time stretches here for this one is what I find actually very useful when I'm going into working on a sample, and I like the way I like this certain BPM, or I like the way my drums hit at this certain BPM, but it's not the tempo of the sample. This is huge. I think I went over this a little bit in the last video, but so like let's say, you know, our sample's at 123, but we want our sample to be at 150 because we like the way our drums are hitting at 150, and it's just that's the tempo we want to be at. So all you do, it's very easy. You just type in your original tempo, hit enter, type in your new tempo. So we want to be at 150. Boom, do it. The cool thing about it is it changes your sample, but it doesn't affect like the sample quality. So you're gonna hear it quicker now. That's really quick, but it doesn't affect the sample quality. It doesn't stretch. It doesn't affect the quality. So you're still gonna get that same quality of the sample, but it's able to change the timing without you know, sacrificing the quality, which is really dope. So another cool thing here is this is all kind of straightforward. Is, you know, you can tune your sample here, hit it with a, you know, it detects your BPMs. You could detect your BPM. You could ×2 and figure out exactly what your BPM is. This is all just like informational kind of stuff, which is really dope. Let's say, for example, I wanted to chop this up in a little bit of a different way. Right? And let's say I wanted to assign that to a pad. So I'm going to come down here, that selection that I have, I'm going to assign that. So I'm going to go down to assign. I'm going to go assign, slice to pad. And I'm going to click on that drop-down menu. I'm going to go make new sample. It's going to take that selection I had and make a brand new sample out of it. So we're on program 1 because we haven't loaded anything in. So it's a free open program that we have right now. And I'm going to go crop sample. You can leave crop sample checked. Click on A1. That's going to load that sample. It just made a brand new sample out of what I just had. So now I come back, I'm like, okay, that's my first sample. Okay, so now we're going down our sample. I'm going to find a new sample for us to work with. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to find the end of this. Boom. I'm going to assign. I'm going to go make new sample. I'm going to put that on our second pad. Okay, so now we got 2 samples that we're working with. I'm just dragging it so you guys can see how to do it without a beat pad. So we're gonna move this one back here. Right there. Boom. I'm gonna assign this to a 3, and then so now that we took those samples and we assigned them to different to our program, we can come back and we can go to program 1. We can go back to our home page, and now on this we have all these cool samples. All right, so we have. So it's dope. If we really wanted to chop some stuff up, we could come in and we could record something like that, and it's so. You know what I mean? I have no repeat on, but you know what I mean. So we can mess around with our samples and make some cool kind of chops and stuff like that. That's kind of how you get into the chopped and screwed. It's all about creativity, and it's all about, really, when it comes down to it, it's all about your precision with your samples. So I chopped those really quick so I can show you how to do it, but when you do that, you're going to want to make sure that you really get in there and fine-tune the end of your samples. And that's kind of where the fade comes in to be kind of useful, is with the end of your sample, there's always going to be that little bit of clipping, because you're stopping a sound wave right in the middle of it, you know. So when you do that and you chop a sound wave right in half, you're going to get a little bit of clipping because there's not actual silence. You're going from sound to no sound, and when it does that, and it's not in a fluent way, you're going to get a clipping sound. You guys can kind of hear that little ticking right at the end. So that's where it's useful to do a fade out and make it a little bit short, right? So then when at the end, and you can kind of mess with that and do less of a fade or more of a fade or whatever to, you know, to make it seem more fluent throughout your samples. It's also a good idea too when you go into mixing, if you're going to leave those clips in there, which is usually what I do, just because I'm a little bit more used to mixing and doing that during mixing in another DAW in Logic or Pro Tools, is I bounce it out there and then I put little faders at the end of those so they don't clip. It takes a little bit of work, but it makes the difference in the long run, because the last thing you want is to put out a song and then you're hearing all these little clips and these little mistakes that you didn't notice before or looked over before and didn't think they were a big deal, and then when it gets mastered, it brings everything up and everything's louder, and then now you can hear those clips and it doesn't sound good to the ear, so it takes away from the fluidity of the song. So that's kind of the basics of sample editing. Yeah, I mean, these are all kind of self-explanatory. If you do want to like bit reduce or stereo to mono, those are also kind of self-explanatory. If you want to make a sample mono or whatever, that's really useful there. For really whatever you want to do, and it's dope because I love the sample editing process. It's so sleek and easy. I don't see a lot of DAWs with this kind of like easy to use and quickly usable, you know, sample editing tool. So that's really dope. But yeah, guys, that kind of wraps it up for the sample editing process here in MPC. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe to me if you guys want to see some more videos on Akai Mpc and get into some other stuff in here. I'm going to probably do a couple more videos and wrap up everything that I have going on in here, and then we'll move over to Logic and get into some mixing tips and really get down into the engineering side of things. So yeah, guys, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be posting 1 or 2 videos a week. I'm probably going to be posting up on Friday and posting up, midweek, maybe like Monday, Tuesday. So stay posted for some more tutorials. Hit the Instagram at Young B.Smith, and keep a lookout for B.SmithBeats.com coming up soon. So appreciate y'all.
Young B on the beat, bitch.